and this sounds so corny, I think inside the ring, I'm the person that I wished I was in high school. Like I'm the person that's standing up for everybody. I'm the person that's standing up to the bullies. I'm the person, you know what I mean, that's making a difference by like stopping the bad guy.
Hey guys, welcome back to another interview here on Tone In Entertainment. Today on the podcast, we have Murphy Madsen in the house. How are you doing, Murphy?
Hey there, I'm doing well. How are you guys? I know you're coming at us from the East Coast and I'm on the West Coast, so that's pretty cool.
Right? It's like a 3 or 4 hour time difference, something like that, but we're making it happen.
Yes, I'm really happy that you guys accommodated that. So thank you so much.
Definitely. It's always interesting setting up these podcasts because I feel like the hardest part is always setting it up with schedules from people not just across the country, but sometimes across the world. Like, so it's really cool that no matter what, we can make this interview happen.
Definitely, definitely.
Now, why I reached out to you in the first place was you're a 90s kid, or that's the motto that you go by. Everything in the ring, from the entrance to the ring attire, it's 90s. I'm a huge 90s nerd. I mean, it's everything to me. So I'm not going to ask your age, but I'm guessing you probably weren't born in the 90s.
I was born in the 90s,
Oh, you were?
yes.
Okay.
Very early 90s. So I am a true 90s kid. So I lived it, I revere it, I represent it. So, here I am just kind of being myself, doing my thing.
Okay. Like, okay, so you come out to the song No Scrubs, at least in the matches that I've seen. Why was it that song that you've chosen as your ring entrance?
So early on when I started training, I was always told to be yourself and do everything as you would do it, just turned up to 11. So I remember just having this amazing like girls' night out, and we all just had such a good time. We actually went to the roller rink and just had a really good time. And just driving home and singing that song with like all my friends just was such a memorable moment for me. And it's a song that I've always like resonated with because it kind of puts guys in their place and puts people in their place and really expresses like what a person wants in a partner. And I think that's super awesome. And yeah, I'm part of the No Scrub Club for life. So yeah, for sure.
It's like no matter what you're looking for, whether it's relationships, friendships, business associations, right? We don't want no scrubs.
No, we don't want no scrubs. You got to have a job. You got to have a car. You got to know where you're going in life if you want to get with me. So,
Now, speaking of cars, looking behind you, I see a bunch of Hot Wheels and maybe other collectibles up there. I don't know if it's something other than Hot Wheels on the one side, but I see a bunch of Hot Wheels.
Yes. So these are Hot Wheels. They're all different I guess, well, they do limited runs, so they're all different runs. So like one is like an art run, another one is like one of their hot rod runs and stuff like that. And then up here we got the Legos and some other like Star Wars collectibles and things like that. So yeah, I like to collect things, and here they are.
Are those the Hot Wheels that are part of like an exclusive set that you could have to be like a member or something of?
And no, they're just
Uh,
purchased and collected in little sets or given as gifts.
okay, yeah, I have a friend of mine that I think he's part of some club or something like that, and they get like an exclusive one in the mail or something crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not quite at that level,
Okay.
but yeah.
So speaking of collectibles, I mean, I've got Funko Pops back here. I've got trading cards. I've got action figures. I mean, other than Hot Wheels and Star Wars, like what's your favorite thing to have as collectibles?
Definitely. So I collect craft supplies. So my elbow pads, actually I customized them myself. I ordered them and I added the yellow and the green slime. So I I collect art supplies and lava lamps, but right now I live in a studio apartment, so I don't have my full like lava lamp collection. My That's at my parents' house. But pretty soon here I'm moving into a house and I'm super stoked, and then I will be able to put all of my collectibles there nicely for everyone to see. So I'm excited.
Does the slime come from like the Double Dare or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. So I've definitely been really heavily inspired by 90s Nickelodeon. I was a Nickelodeon kid as well as a Disney kid, but I really loved the Orange Years and I loved the documentary as well, because I really connected with Nickelodeon when I was little. So yes, the green is for like the green slime and things like that. And back in the day too, Nickelodeon had a really like close connection with like a lot of hip hop artists. And so like for example, the All That theme song was actually sung by TLC, and I believe it was LL Cool J. He recorded the song for Keenan and Kel. So that's definitely what I wanted to encapsulate when I was really putting together, you know, Murphy Madsen and putting that ring persona together. So yeah.
Now, as a kid, I'm sure you're probably the same. Did you ever like just dream about being on Double Dare one day?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, oh, I could do that, or I would have done that better, or that was the answer to this question. So I was definitely like an on the couch player for all of those. And like same with the Hidden Temple and all of that too. Like really love that as
Those are
well.
so cool. We don't have stuff like that. Like, and they had like the arcade one too. I think there was a Nick Arcade or
Yes.
something like that as well too.
Yes, definitely. And then also Guts was really, really super big, and I loved that one too. So yeah,
Are,
definitely. I was watching all of those.
are kids really missing out these days? Since I don't even know what's on TV anymore, to be honest. But I think we had a
I
lot of
mean,
cool stuff.
yeah, I absolutely I believe so. So I'm gonna pull back the veil a little bit. So for my real job, I'm actually an early childhood educator. Um, so outside of wrestling, I'm a teacher. So I can attest to that. Yes, I think that the content that kids are viewing today and they're taking in is a lot less I don't know, a lot less, I don't know, nutrient filled, I guess, if that makes sense. I feel like kids used to be challenged, and right now that's not something that's really going on. So yes, like I miss those days, and I feel like programming isn't the same, and I might just be like a nostalgia hound in saying like, oh, the good old days and this and that. But I really do believe that. I believe that we got to get back to the grassroots and challenge our kids and have fun and have guts and do double dares and things like that. So yeah, I kind of think that.
It's weird when I talk to friends nowadays. We all say we're becoming our parents now, right? We talk about how we grew up was the best time ever. But I think me and you can absolutely 100% agree that obviously the 90s was the best decade of all decades to
Oh,
ever come into existence.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Best music, best movies, best candies that came out, best cereals, like everything. You can think about it and you'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember that. So, yeah, definitely. I think the 90s was the best, but I'm
Okay,
biased, I think.
well, you're just being realistic. It's not so much that you're
Yeah,
biased, right? Okay, so we have to
true.
like let's start naming off some cool stuff from the 90s, right? Okay, what was the best cereal of the 90s?
Oh, for me, let me think. I mean, I love Apple Jacks. I really love Apple Jacks, but I also liked, and I don't know if you remember, this was when I was really little. I liked Kix cereal. They actually came in a purple box and they had different shapes, almost like Trix, but it was Kix. So they had the cornflake like little balls, but then they also had like it almost looked like apples and grapes and oranges, and like that's all they had with the Kix. I really liked that. So you know, Applejack's Kick cereal, that was the best for me. But there was definitely a lot of other really great cereals like Fruity Pebbles, I'm also a big fan of, and Cocoa Puffs, of course, Reese's Puffs, peanut butter chocolate flavor. Come on, like there's so many good jingles during that time as well too. So
Oh, the
yeah.
commercials. The commercials were so
Oh,
wonderful.
Off the chain for sure.
Yeah, I think I would probably have to go for me. I would have to go, and it might be late 80s or early 90s, but I'm going with that Ninja Turtle cereal. That was
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
bomb diggity. Like it
Yeah.
was the, and I just said bomb diggity, so it's okay.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. For sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. I got you. I got you.
Now let's talk about your favorite movie from the 90s then.
Ooh, I have a lot of early 2000s favorite movies, to be honest. My favorite movie from the 90s has to be, this is so silly, but I love it. It is The Parent Trap starring Lindsay Lohan and Lindsay Lohan.
Okay. Okay. Because she played two
Um,
different roles in that movie, if I'm
yeah,
not
she
right.
did,
Okay.
and it blew my mind that it was her. And I remember, back in the day they used to have something called movie surfers, and so it was like it was the Disney Channel movie surfers behind the scene with Lindsay Lohan like talking to her about playing both roles, and I was just obsessed. I was like, when I grow up, I want to be an actress, and I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like you have all those dreams and stuff, um, and yeah, so I just was really into that and thought that was like the coolest thing ever that she played both parts. So yeah.
Now, I recently covered a show down here in Orlando, Florida called Radical Rumble, which was about the 80s. So I asked people what they wish they would have brought back from that radical time of the 80s, early 90s. What is something that you wish was brought back from that time that maybe we don't have anymore?
Mm, let me think. Well, first of all, the Attitude Era, like that was to me the best era of wrestling. Yes, let's
Right,
go,
right,
let's go. You
right.
know, you know, but yeah, just the larger, like I think with wrestling, especially like pro wrestling, like the larger the better, like larger than life coming at you. You know, do you smell what the Rock is cooking? And he's like, smell, like saying that forever and ever and ever, right? I'm really getting that moment. Like, I just really enjoyed the theatricality of the Attitude Era and everything that that era of wrestling brought. And I kind of miss that. Like, I feel like we have it in certain places. I'm a big fan of Impact Wrestling, and I feel that they really play into the theatrics and really highlight that well. And I love that. And I think that we need to see more of it with more of like the mainstream brands as well too. So yeah.
Now, one thing wrestling in the 90s was super cool, right? Like people used to go to the mall and you'd see tons of people just wearing shirts like The Undertaker, Stone Cold, 316, NWO, it didn't matter. Like, do you think wrestling will ever get back to the cool part again? Like just in the mainstream society like it once was?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's on its way, especially with all the different brands that are popping up. As I mentioned, Impact Wrestling is really, really growing in popularity. Um, Same with New Japan, as well as AEW, obviously, very, very big, came up and skyrocketed and has really amazing talents that they're highlighting as well. So I think there is a possible chance of a resurgence. I think that um, if we go back to the roots of wrestling and we slow it down and we do that storytelling, that's really going to be what kind of pushes it back to that popularity. Because I think that's why so many people loved it, because it was that hard hitting soap opera, but like also like the aggression and the ruthless attitude that people had, and just being able to tell it like it is really in front and then fight about it, like have a microphone, being able to do that and tell like it is. Like I think that we need that again, and I know that there is some stuff still sprinkled in, but like it still isn't the same, like I'm saying, like the Attitude Era was. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
definitely.
actually kind of crazy. I think actually on Facebook today, I saw somebody post a quote of Kurt Angle saying the exact same thing. Now, I don't know if it was quoted today or it's an old quote, but he said he wishes that chain wrestling and storytelling and that old school vibe, because there's so much great. I feel like the talent now is far and above like what we've
Oh,
ever
absolutely.
seen, right? But I feel
Absolutely.
like the storytelling and the bringing you in, the sucking the crowd in on a weekly basis still isn't there yet in every major promotion. There is some there, but it's not. You have to see every single show every week to make sure you're on
Yeah.
top of your game.
Exactly. And I definitely agree with that. I think some of it does have to do with the popularity of independent wrestling and more so indie style wrestling, which is a lot more fast paced. You're throwing a lot more tricks in there. You're trying to literally just outmove and outdo each other. And that's a really beautiful form of wrestling in itself. And I think that it's great. And I'm a big fan of indie style wrestling. I am an independent wrestler. But to that point, though, if you just slow down a hair and you make each move matter and you space out your moves in a way that's a lot more impactful, you can still do storytelling. Even in an indie style match that's fast paced, it's just dialing it down a bit and just really focusing in and dialing in who you are character wise and what choices you would make as a character. I think really is what it comes down to. But there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of young talent coming up, a lot of people who've been in the game in independent wrestling for a long time, that I've seen come up, and it's been really cool. So yeah.
How did your pro wrestling journey begin?
So actually I was shown a video of Asuka, um, and I want to say like right pre-pandemic. So it was probably like late 2018, early 2019. And I decided I saw her music, her costume, her hard hitting style. Like I just watched her and I was like, I need to do that. So I just decided to pursue it wholeheartedly. I looked it up online, any local promotions, any local pro wrestling training going on, and I just pursued it from there. And I've loved every minute of it. So yeah, it's been really fun.
When you walked into that training facility for the first day, what went through your head?
I was really like, I was overwhelmed. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really gonna do this. Am I gonna get hurt? Am I gonna be able to do this? Am I too old to do this? Things like that. Definitely were going through my head, but I was like, if this is something you really want, you need to just do it. And so I just kept coming in with that attitude, even though I was overwhelmed, or maybe I was a hair behind the rest of the group, or I was struggling with some skill. I just reminded myself, like, if you really want to do it, you just have to do it. You have to commit and you have to do it. So that's really how it went. It was just kind of overcoming my own fears and myself at that point. So yeah.
What did your family think when you went to go when you signed up
Um,
for school?
Yeah, so I initially started wrestling lucha styles. So I had trained American style wrestling for about 3 weeks, and some people invited me to train lucha, and I fell in love with it. I fell in love with that style of wrestling. Just the clear bad guy, good guy dynamic is so awesome to me. I love it. I love the energy of a lucha show. And just like I don't know, it's just different. There's a different flavor to it, a different feel when you wrestle lucha, and I just fell in love with the culture and everything about it. And so I was telling my mom about it, and she was like, "That makes sense." She was like, "That makes sense for you." She really liked it. I've played sports my whole life though, so she was like, "Be careful, like I don't want you to get a concussion again." And I was like, "Oh, I won't." And so like there was always like that fear that I bonked my head, but I still, knock on wood, have not had a concussion yet in wrestling, which is like amazing because it's very common to get those. So yeah, yeah, my mom was like, "Yeah, that seems right." And then later on, I got more opportunities after I'd been training and after I've performed live. Um, After I started training American, because during my lucha training, it was COVID, everything had shut down, and that was really difficult. But after I started training American, things like that, I was able to get more opportunities, which is great. And then I started wrestling men, and men that were like 3 times as big as me. And my dad went to some of those performances, and that was hard for him. So we were talking about those matches and those scenarios, and yeah. But I'm not injured, so that's good. So everything turned out fine. Yeah.
Is there difficulty in wrestling men that are much bigger than you and trying to make everything, the crowd believe as to what's going on in the ring is, you know, really what's happening?
Yeah. So I think the key is, as a female that's wrestling a man, or just as an undersized person that's wrestling a juggernaut, like in general, I think that as the person who is a bit smaller, if you come at it with full force and you're full fire and you can do it without permanently injuring someone, then do it. Like unleash your fury, like let it go, and just commit to the story. Like I was in a moment where someone who was a lot bigger than me was, having me in a chokehold and loosen their grip. And I just went for it and I open handed slapped the person. And I was like, you know what? It's my turn to take over this match and it's gonna go off. So sometimes you just have to fully commit to it. And I think that that's really the key. Um, and I think too, understanding your wrestling style is really important. Like for me, I had to come to terms with, even though I'm a big, strong lady, I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to be the strongest person in the ring generally. So I needed to build up that quick, fast, caught off guard, like lucha American style, where I'm, rolling out of the way, or I'm jumping onto the ropes, or I'm using the ropes to power up some of my strikes and things like that. So you really have to think about the psychology of wrestling and how you are going to beat that person. So that's a big piece of it too, is just really figuring out who you are as a wrestler so then you can apply that to different wrestling scenarios.
Yeah, one of the matches I watched of yours recently was against Bambi Hall, who's a brute force in the ring. But the way that you meshed your two styles together, like watching it, you look like the underdog from an outsider's perspective, going in there. But
Absolutely.
going in there, like the chemistry and everything was there to like really put on a great match and really, suck me in as an audience member to like really be invested in that match.
Absolutely. That match is my probably my favorite match. I've talked about it I think 3 times now on every podcast I've been
Okay.
on. Um
You know what?
that
It's the
is
most popular search when you search your name on YouTube. That is the match that does come up too. That's the
yeah,
first
it
one.
literally, yes, that is my favorite match. She is one of the most incredible competitors I've worked with. I had so much fun and I learned so much working with her just for that short amount of time and just for that match. And I'm really hoping I actually have a women's tournament coming up, and we haven't gotten our matchups yet. So there's two coming up that I'm involved in. One is in actually exactly 1 month in my home state of Washington State, which I'm super excited about. And that's going to be super fun. And then the next one is in Portland. And I saw that Bambi was put on the card of that match, but we don't have our matchups yet. So I'm really, really hoping that I'll be able to face her again and be able to like have that same compatibility and just fight with her. Like I just want to fight with her. She's a great person to fight.
Now, speaking of fighting, do like the kids that you teach, do they know what you do on the weekends?
I try to I don't talk about it often, but my coworkers really love to talk about it.
Okay.
So I do end up talking about it with the kids and what it means and when Miss Madison is wrestling and what that looks like and all of those things. And so yeah, like well, I'll talk about it with them a little bit and talk to them about safety and things like that. But it's usually for the older kids, like the school age program knows, and the younger kids don't really know. So yeah. Hmm.
So none of them have like shown up to your like shows or anything and been like, "Hey, Miss, how are you?"
No,
And
no. So
you told me not to fight
so
in class, and here you are.
right, exactly. No, I've had parents ask and then I show them an example and I say, hey, like I get beat up. Like that's part of it. Do you feel comfortable with that part of it? Because I just don't want to freak any kids out because um, you know, I take care of them. I don't want them to think that I'm getting hurt and stuff. So yeah.
Have you suffered? I know you said thankfully, and let's keep it that way. You haven't suffered any concussions, and let's keep it that way. But have you had any injuries in the ring that you've had to maybe take some time off to recover from?
I already so in high school I was the school mascot. So I have an existing neck injury because the suit weighed altogether, I believe it was like 45 pounds. It was really heavy. Um, and so I was a grizzly bear. I was a small grizzly bear, but I was a grizzly bear. And I've gotten like my neck bothered or somebody's like kicked my shoulder wrong and it kind of like popped out of place and stuff like that. But it's never been anything like devastating. Like my one of my good friends who I really love to work with, she just broke her ankle and I'm so disappointed because she's a really great talent and a lot of fun to work with. So yeah.
Like, okay, like I've always found being a mascot or like, those Disney characters very intriguing. I've never done it myself, but like, kids and people, they all want to come up to you and probably take like tons of pictures. Is there any time like when you're in that suit and you're like, I just want to get the heck out of this thing and like
Yeah, so I did an event. It was a charity event like run and it was during the summer. So I'm a grizzly bear, right? So I'm in this suit and we're meant to be at this elementary school with all of these kids and it was just me. Usually I would have like a teacher or like someone with me or like an upperclassman or whatever with me as well. To like watch me, but they left and I didn't know because I'm in this giant suit, like this huge, bear thing. There's a fan in it to try to keep it cool, but it's really just loud. It doesn't really help. And there were kids behind me like pulling my tail and like trying to like open the suit. And I was like, oh my goodness, like if these kids do not leave me alone, there's gonna be an issue. So finally, like one of the teachers or helper students saw me and like got the kids away, but it was a lot. I was like, okay. So yeah, that was a moment where I was like, get me out of here.
now you said that you're going to be wrestling in Portland, and Portland is definitely a place on my bucket list of places to go. But for really one important reason, because I said I'm an 80s, 90s guy, and that's because obviously the Goonies was filmed in Portland out there. So I was just wondering if you've ever made a trip out to do anything Goonies related while you've been out there.
So I was meant to, but this last trip I went on, so we actually went on an extended weekend up there to go to a Portland show that I was performing at, but then also we were gonna make it to Astoria, but where we were in Portland was like 2.5, 3 hours away from Astoria, where Goonies was actually filmed, and so we had to like kind of see where we were, like day of the match, would we make it back in time, what does that look like and all of those things, and we just weren't able to make it out there, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like, oh, so such on my list. It's definitely a place I have to go. So
Mm.
let's bring it back a little bit to the 90s and wrestling. And during that time, I felt like factions, right, were just a huge thing, right? Everybody was in some type of group, okay? So let's just say Murphy Madsen had to form a faction with you and three other wrestlers. Who would you take to have your back? And it could be,
uh
this is your dream faction too. So anytime
okay,
period.
so whomever, anytime period. Okay.
Yeah.
Can it cross brands, like
You can do
what's the
whatever you want. This is your crew because everybody jumped
excellent.
ship in the 90s. So anything goes.
Right, so I would probably take um I would take Ruby Soho from AEW. And then I would take oh, it's so funny. I'm trying not to pick any other ex WWE. Let me think. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Probably Kat Statlander. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
also from AEW. I think
Yeah.
that would be really cool to work with both of them in a faction for sure.
And you got one more because it's four.
Oh yeah, it's four. Okay, okay, okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm gonna go old school. I'm gonna say Lita.
okay. Okay. So you
Yeah,
got Lita, Ruby Soho, and Chris Statlander.
yeah.
I mean, it could happen. All three of them are wrestling right now, right? I
I
mean,
know.
in some
That's what I
capacity.
was thinking. I was like, who's wrestling right now? So yeah. I think that would be really cool.
Okay, I like that. I like that team of four women. Just
Yeah,
not to be
definitely. I
messed with.
think Yeah, if I just go more 90s grunge with it, I think that I would fit in perfectly.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, all three of them are very unique in their own way, but like at the same way, the four of you could click together as a group, like right now, I think.
yeah, I think so too. I think like they're all very hard hitting and they also are very competitive with any competitor. So that's what I like.
What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far in your pro wrestling journey about yourself?
For me, like I think that I can always do more than I tell myself I'm capable of. I think that I really have a big problem with standing in my own way. And that's been really hard. Like there's days where, I'm getting ready for a show and I'm like, oh man, I really don't know if I can do this today. Like where I feel like dog tired, or maybe something sad happened the day before and I'm not ready for it. But then I go out there and I'm able to like really connect with the crowd and really put on like a great match with somebody. And I feel so great afterwards. I'm like, you know what? I really can do the things that I put my mind to, and I really can overcome these obstacles in my life to do something that makes somebody escape their obstacles in their life. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like I do it for myself, but I do it for other people too. Um, so yeah, I think that that's it. Like I can always do more. You know? Yeah,
No, I am in a very lucky opportunity down here in Florida, and with the promotions that I get to cover, that I get
absolutely.
that I get to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I get to go be there hours before the show starts, so I really get a good look as to like the pre-production to the production to the post-production. I'm there before and after, and I really get to see the wrestlers in how they um change, from when you walk in the door to when they're in the ring to at the end of the night. Like, what would you say for yourself um, is the biggest change between maybe the person that you walk in the door as and the person that's inside the ring?
I think too, like I said, it's just me turned up to like 11. Like I am the same person inside and outside of the ring, but I think inside of the ring, I'm and this sounds so corny. I think inside the ring, I'm the person that I wished I was in high school. Like I'm the person that's standing up for everybody. I'm the person that's standing up to the bullies. I'm the person, you know what I mean, that's making a difference by like stopping the bad guy, if that makes sense. Because right now, like I'm really just on a good guy journey as far as wrestling goes, and that really resonates with me. And so just when I get in there, I'm like, you know, thinking about those things that I wish I had stood up for in the past, or that I want to stand for now. And that's really like the difference. I'm just more out there about it.
That's so awesome. Is it important for you to be, with that persona, and not just your persona, but who you are? Is that important for you to pass that on to maybe younger girls that are watching you wrestle?
Absolutely. Like that's one of the biggest reasons that I fell in love with wrestling too, was that I could be that example of girl power and women's strength, that I always resonated with when I was younger. One movie, and this is super corny, but one movie that I really love is the Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. I saw it when I was really young, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, you know, she she was on her own. Like her dad had passed away, she was on her own, and she was able to like not only do her dad's work, but she was like super strong, super confident, super smart, able to fight with the guys. Like that was something that I was like, wow, like it just really resonated with me, and I fell in love with just female protagonists after that. And then of course you have, you know, Mila Jovovich in Resident Evil and movies like that. They're almost like B action films almost. I love them so
Some of
much
them are,
because
yeah.
yeah, exactly. But I just love them so much because it's just women, like girl power personified, and that's really what I want to be in the ring. So
Now,
yeah.
I mean, that was just another great thing about the 90s. And I'm going to throw out a couple of those for myself that, like, I feel like, whether it was China and WWE, whether it
Yes.
was Buffy the Vampire Slayer on TV, right? Whether if it was Chun Li or Katana in like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, like I felt like we really did see the rise of like, you know, women being able to be powerful and hold their own without them being like incredible Hulk like. That a woman could be a regular woman, you know, a normal looking woman, but yet still just kick a lot of ass at the same time and hold their own.
Yeah, yeah. And like even going further back to just Princess Leia too. Like
Okay.
it was like exactly like there were just female protagonists that are just amazing and again just really resonated with me. And I love girl power. I love empowering women and women lifting women up. And so being part of these two tournaments is just really an honor because a lot of the talent there are people that I really look up to. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm with the big girls now. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Right, because like growing up, like you know, a lot of and I've talked to plenty of women wrestlers who have kind of like agreed with this. Like growing up in the '80s, women's wrestling really wasn't taken seriously. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, the women's match is on, like it's time to go to the concession stand now, right? But
Absolutely, yeah.
the majority of the times, not only is like the women's matches some of the best stuff on the card a lot, but we're seeing a lot of women do just amazing things. Like I've actually got my Britt Baker Thunder
Oh
Rosa
yeah.
poster up there. I've had, you know, you said you like Impact Kylan King. She's wrestled down here in the steel cage match against Marina Tucker, who's Penelope Pink on WoW. Like, and it's just so great to see like just women put in these situations that not only they deserve to be, but you know, is 100% believable as well too.
Yeah, definitely like yeah, it's been really cool. The journey's been really cool. I liked just watching like WWE's Women's Revolution or Evolution and everything like that. Like that was super amazing to me. Like just seeing where WWE was in their women's wrestling and how they highlighted women, I was really happy to see that growth and to see that talent that came, you know, out of that. So that was really cool and exciting. So I liked that a lot, just being part of that storyline and, you know, everything. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I believe they only had the one, like, I guess, pay-per-view, right? That
Yeah,
was like, why do you think they never followed up on like maybe a second or third one by now?
I think too, a lot of what wrestling is doing is they're trying to like integrate more. So it's not just like the separate female events, which are super awesome and I love, but they're trying to make it more just make it more one brand and more cohesive, like with having everybody be called superstars now instead of like a Divas Women's Champion and things like that. So, you know, I think that's cool.
Right. Now, the one thing I wish, especially like, you know, I'm a avid AEW watcher, and the one thing I wish they would do was literally they've only got one women's match. It's like programmed into their Dynamite show. It's literally one match. There's probably been one time there's been two women's matches on AEW. Like I just don't understand why there's not more tag teams, why there's not more six women matches, why there's not more than just that one match to like meet the quota. It feels like I don't know if that's network or it's probably network, but I feel like there's so many women there, but we don't get to see them on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think too a big part of wrestling is chemistry. So I think, you know, it depends on you know, just, you know, maybe what they're interested in doing, what their storyline is or what, you know, it could be a lot of things, but I would hope that there's more reasoning than just like, okay, let's make our, you know, one quota, you know, kind of a
Right.
deal. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's in the future for Murphy Madsen?
You know, I my big goal right now is I would really like to debut in Canada. So I'm working on that. A Canadian debut would be fantastic for me. So fingers crossed, toes crossed that I'll be able to within the next year, you know, make it up to Canada and have some matches up there. And I think as far as independent wrestling goes, I just really want to travel with it. My big dream is to travel to the UK and to perform up on their women's wrestling promotion up there called Eve Wrestling. It's a really great promotion. There's a lot of people who come out of there really successfully. So I would love to go and take a crack at it. You know,
How
yeah.
do you keep up the energy level between, the day job, the wrestling on the weekend? Like, is there like a secret to your success?
No,
No.
I literally, I mean, prayer, honestly. To be honest, like I literally just hope and pray for the best every day that I go into work, every day that I perform, and it's done well, you know. So yeah, it's a hard go. You have to make sure to eat right. Like I've had to start switching to more of like a protein heavy diet, so I'm able to like work those hours and then go and work out afterwards or go to training afterwards, and things like that. And it's especially difficult in the summer because the heat, you know, really goes up. And so you have to figure out your fluids again and blah, 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 you know. So, yeah,
Sometimes just a positive attitude could be all that we need, right? To get through our day-to-days.
definitely. Yes. I'm definitely a glass half full person. At least I try to be, which is sometimes to my own detriment because negative news surprises me a lot and I need to be less surprised with negativity and just let it pass. But other than that, like, no, like I love wrestling. There's, you know, crummy times where people are divas or people are dramatic and things like that. But if you just let them flow and wash over you and you keep your eyes focused on your goals, and you just have fun, that's really, really what it takes to make it, I think.
Great words to live by, I think, in just every day of life, whether you're wrestling or no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we should know about Murphy Madsen before we let you go?
I recently joined Twitter. So this girl's part of the 21st century. So it's just also Murphy Madsen on Twitter. If you guys want to join me there. But yeah, just keep looking up my name on YouTube, keep checking in on my socials, and you'll see, you know, all the things I'm up to. You might catch a little episode of Murph for Nothing. That's a little weekly show I do. I try to have all of my footage out by every Sunday. So it's a little fun thing I like to do to keep up content and things like that. But other than that, like, no, just stay blessed and keep being yourself. And that's what I have to share.
It's so funny. I don't usually write down notes or or just little bullet points, I guess you should say. And I only wrote down two things today. And actually one of them was one thing I didn't even ask about. And you just brought it up, which is Murph or Nothing, which brings me back again to those times of like, as soon as you start playing it, it has that PS not P I don't want to say PSA vibe, but kind of like those like afternoon school tips or something like that. Like, is that what kind of like you're going for in those videos?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's the after school special. It's the all that physical comedy. Yeah, definitely like stuff like that. Maybe the little bit of the MTV VJ, like stay tuned to see, kind of a thing. So just all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun. I mean, it looks like you're having an absolute blast when you're filming those things and just
Yeah.
you know, I don't know, beating somebody up while you're have a smile on your face while doing it too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun.
Well, other than Twitter, where can people follow you at?
Yeah, I have Twitter and Instagram are my two socials that I really invest in. So yeah, just Murphy_Madsen for my Instagram, and then just Murphy Madsen on Twitter. So yeah.
Any merch?
I do have merch. I do only have them available at shows right now.
Okay. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
at a show, somebody can come up and get some merch then.
Definitely. Or if you're super, super interested, I can definitely work something out as far as shipment goes, but I'm not live on any like brainbuster teas or anything like that yet.
Okay. Is
Mhm.
it hard to try to like budget out the merch and like, because obviously you
Yeah.
don't want to have too much and try to sell, and I always feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
most difficult part.
Yes, it is very difficult, and especially like when you don't necessarily know. So it's really interesting because there's like math to it too. So like for example, if I'm at a show where I perform pre intermission, I actually usually get more sales than if you perform post intermission. So or depending on your matchup, like maybe the match that you had was just an opening match and it really like wasn't as impactful. So a lot of it has to do with just like the psychology of like how are you going to be memorable and what is favorable in being memorable and things like that too. So that's kind of silly. But I think that as long as you are interacting with the crowd, you'll be able to sell your merch no matter what. But as far as like Brainbuster and all of that go, I just have an independent artist who's one of my good friends. His name is Aaron Rootsasender, and he is amazing filmographer as well as graphic designer. And he's all freelance, taught himself, and he does really, really great work. He's Aaron Roots on Instagram, and you can tell him that Murph sent you. But I have him do all my stuff, and then I send it just, I outsource it to like a t-shirt making place, either online or sometimes local. I'm going to probably use a local guy next time. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, perfect. Well, guys, make sure that, when you go to one of Murphy's shows, you swing by the table and support the journey of
Yes,
her.
please.
Yes, exactly. Please. It's always good. Like half of my closet, honestly, is independent wrestling t-shirts now because I go to the shows and I love you guys and girls are working so hard. And like, I think that's only our way of showing appreciation is to come by and get a little something, whether it's whatever your taste is, if it's an 8x10 or if it's a sticker or a t-shirt or a hat or whatever it is, go out, support your favorite indie wrestlers. It does make a big difference.
It really does. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it really does make a big difference.
Absolutely. Well, Murphy, thank you so much for joining me here on the channel.
Thank you again. Thank you for making time for me.
Definitely, definitely. You're a 90s kid. I'm a 90s dude. We love the 90s. We love pro wrestling. So you ever make it down to Miami, we'll have another chat, in person.
Yes.
We'll do something like that.
Yeah. That sounds good.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Definitely. All right, guys. If you like interviews like this with Murphy Madsen, make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos. Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.